Good morning, everybody. All right. So, from what I've heard from the discussion earlier, it seems to be that between giving and receiving, there seems to be some kind of commonality there. So, I want to pose this question: how many of you felt joy both when you were giving and when you were receiving? Raise your hand. Oh, a lot of them. Okay. So, isn't this a very interesting phenomenon that we see here? Yes? So actually, in Buddhist teachings, we have a term for this, which is called the three spheres of emptiness. And this may sound like some kind of deep abstract thing, but actually, we would like to do a little skit to kind of help you guys understand it a little bit more, and hopefully this will clear things up for you guys for a little bit. So for the skit, I would like to first ask for 2 volunteers. Volunteers? All right. I see someone got voluntold. All right. All right, please come on stage. All right. So, what are your names?
Rahul from Atlanta.
Alan from Cleveland.
Thank you, Rahul and Alan, right? Okay. All right. So, let's see. Rahul, you have a gift that you want to give to Alan. Chocolate from Hawaii. All right, please give it to Alan. Alan, how do you feel?
I feel great.
And Rahul?
Good.
Good. Okay. So, in this scenario, we have who's the giver? Rahul. Who's the receiver? Alan. And what about the gift? Chocolate. There we go. All right. Thank you. So we're gonna thank you guys and ask for another set of volunteers. So thank you. Can you give them a round of applause? All right, another 2 volunteers, please. Maybe someone from this side or somewhere in the back. Iris, okay. Shah, okay. All right, please come on stage. All right, let's do this again. So, 1 second. All right, let's try this again. So again, we have the delicious chocolate. Iris would like to give to Shah. So Iris, please try giving it. Oh no! Iris, how do you feel?
I feel really sad.
She felt really sad. Oh no. So, do we have a receiver? No. Is there a giver? Is there? She tried to give, but she actually didn't give it. So is there still a giver? No. So is there a gift in this case? No, because the chocolate wasn't given to Shah. So the chocolate is just a chocolate. It's not a gift. All right, let's try this one last time. All right, Iris, let's try this again. Let's see if it will work this time. Oh, here we go. So, Shah, are you happy to receive the chocolate?
Yes, I am more than happy.
More than happy. Iris, what about you? How do you feel?
I'm super happy.
Uh, so, who's the giver? Oops. Iris. Receiver? What about the gift? But then there's also something. Iris said she also felt happy. So can we say that there is also something that was given to Iris? What is that something? Joy, or the opportunity to give so that Iris can feel that joy. All right, so thank you guys. Can we give them a round of applause? All right, so from this little demonstration, you guys can see that these three things, the giver, the receiver, and the gift, these three are actually interdependent upon each other, and one cannot exist without another. If any one of them is missing from the equation, this giving would not actually work. So, in everyday life, we can give, we can receive. Everybody has been in that situation on the giving end or on the receiving end. But if we do not have all the conditions, then we can't do anything, right? So this kind of, there's a saying that we say, it is in giving that we receive. And I believe that the three spheres of emptiness is the perfect example of this. And from that, we can also understand why sometimes we say it is important to be able to give without expectations, and why we say we must be grateful to be able to give. Because when we don't have the receiver, then we cannot give. It is just like the same idea of how if the teacher does not have a student to teach, then he cannot be a teacher. If there's a doctor who doesn't have patients, then he's not a doctor, because there's no reason for them to be such a profession. So, such is the concept of the three spheres of emptiness, and hope you guys enjoyed that skit.
Thank you for that, Brother Alan. And you know, you mentioned in what you said there too, the concept of giving without any expectations, and I can relate to that.
So, Brother James, I remember you're from Indiana, right?
Yes, that's right.
And how long have you been in Tzu Chi there?
8 years.
8 years. So over this 8 years that you've been in Tzu Chi, can you tell me a little bit of what has been going on in Indiana?
Well, funny you ask, because I prepared a video clip that can tell us more.
Let's watch it.
The video clip was shot about 4 years ago, but we've been growing our Bodhisattva family there ever more since then. Let's watch.
Almost 4 years ago now, a tutoring program was started here in the Indianapolis Service Center. My mother-in-law, who is more involved with Tzu Chi, asked if I was interested in volunteering to tutor math, and so I did.
To get good communication, you have to understand the situation and communication. Letters.
Yeah, Shama was a very hard worker. Her English skills started off earlier, better than most, because she was here earlier. She's very smart. She has a lot of potential in the future.
When the first group of students came to the tutoring session, Shama stood up as a kind of group leader. Almost every time we need help or in translation, we always ask her.
Like if you're talking, yes. You're not talking to. So if it's a subject. Throughout the years, these last 4 years, she's been very attentive to her community needs as well, which is another impressive thing about her. Soon after getting tutoring herself, she's already helping others. She's helping her own peers with things that she just learned, which probably accounts for why she's learned so quickly herself, because she's teaching what she's learned.
Shama helps people like friends like me, and she helps with English and everything. I'm very thankful to her.
All the tutors are pretty smart. They inspire me to volunteer, to help people. I like them a lot, and I learn a lot of things from them. Without them, I don't know, am I here or not?
Wow, full force. Tzu Chi volunteers. They're here to help us with the distribution to the family.
I'm so excited because this futon has two functions. I can also make it into a bed and sleep on it. Thank you so much for the help.
Hi, Mayo. Good to see you, too. What are you doing this afternoon? You gonna help? Yeah. Really?
When I first met him, he's just a regular American, who didn't know anything about Tzu Chi. To now, almost I fully understand the philosophy, principle, and the master teaching. that he can follow and he can work on.
That one goes in the grass for now, okay?
So he inspires so many other younger generation right now.
Wow, Brother James, that is really awesome. I can definitely see that from when you started long ago, it has definitely, the community in Indiana has really grown into a family, into the Bodhisattva family, and it has really evolved from that very first act of giving, right?
That's absolutely right. So it's an evolution, and you know, it started with the tutoring program, and you spoke of the 3 spheres of emptiness. And when I started with Tzu Chi, I was just a volunteer tutor, and I came to a room full of people eager to learn. And really, in the beginning, I felt like I was giving, and that felt really, really good. And over some time, I really then started feeling that I was receiving, because I was receiving so much wisdom from the experience in itself. And so, in a lot of ways, you know, this tutoring program has shaped me in understanding the 3 spheres of emptiness.
Wow, that really shows the power of giving. So how did this tutoring program get transformed into a charity program?
Yes.
Can you share a little bit on that?
I sure can. So, in the journal writing experience with the students, they often wrote of many things related to their upbringing or their hopes, their dreams, their family members. And through their sharing, we've really gotten a peek into their struggles. And so it then started with a single family visit. And so as you can see, we would visit a family of empty apartments, and there are usually 4 to 8 persons living there. I see children with little clothes, worn out shoes, no toys to speak of, and instantly I think of my daughters. I have 2 daughters, and I feel, why not my daughters, you know, living in conditions like this? And that's really touching to me personally. And when you see that kind of struggling, you just have this outpouring of compassion, and you just want to contribute, and you want to do more. And so Master teaches us to give with wisdom. And so in this experience, it's not just bringing things, and regardless if they need these gifts or not. So the family visits are so important that when we're there, we listen to their struggles, their situation, and we provide the emotional support. We provide, you know, maybe some insight as to how they might prioritize some of their needs. And that's when we learn how to give. We learn how to give either financial assistance, or it could be just running errands. It could be furniture. It could be some of these other things. And so really that's, it starts with that kind of a visit. And really from that one visit, it grew into many more. And it was like a ripple effect. And the more and more the community, folks like Shamo and others, who really come and help and introduce this practice of giving broader into the community.
Wow. So this whole process of building a community and building a family there, building a Bodhisattva family, not just any family there, it really took a lot of effort and really a lot of time, right?
Yes, it takes time. It takes time and seeds. And so seeds like you, me, bodhisattvas, right? And so these seeds will bloom, and they will have more seeds. And so that is analogous to growing of the bodhisattva family. In fact, I see some seeds that have blossomed today. There are 4 new volunteers. I would like for them to stand up. They're on this table in the front. Turn around, wave hello. You might recognize them in the videos because they did just come to the US about 8 to 9 years ago. And from knowing very little English to being a part of their community and just on their way to a very bright future, also joining the Tzu Chi path. It's just been an amazing evolution and an amazing story of showing how from seeds we can build a Bodhisattva family. So let's give them another round of applause.
Well, you know, what we have seen here is what you guys have done in Tzu Chi, but I wonder what we can do in our everyday lives.
Yes, what you and I can do in our everyday. So the kind of the simple things. You guys experienced a little bit of the giving earlier. It's a smile, it's a hug, it's a handshake, or a high five. And you know, we can all do that in our everyday. And I'm going to show you a next video. This young man in this next video really touches our heart in that special way too. So let's take a quick watch, okay?
เขาจะได้อะไรถ้าเขาทำแบบนี้ทุกวันเขาจะไม่ได้อะไรเลยไม่ได้รวยขึ้นไม่ได้ออกทีวีไม่มีใครรู้จักไม่ได้มีชื่อเสียงที่มากขึ้นเพราะสิ่งที่เขาได้คือได้แค่ความรู้สึกได้เห็นความสุขได้เข้าใจได้ความรักได้ในสิ่งที่เงินซื้อไม่ได้ได้โลกที่สวยงามกว่าเดิมในชีวิตคุณอะไรคือสิ่งที่คุณต้องการมากที่สุด
Wow, what did you guys think? That video is very touching every time I watch it, and I can't help but to get teary-eyed. Just watching that video is very touching. And as we were introducing the video, these are some of the things that we can do every day, and it's so inspiring. And what you really notice in that was he gave with absolutely no expectation of any return, right? He gave with no expectation of any return. No afflictions, nothing of, not more anything. He gave without the feeling that he has more to offer. He didn't give with a sense of pride, right? That he had something to give. So those are just some very subtle things too in giving. And as you guys all did earlier in the group exercise, that joy that you felt, I mean, that's what he experienced every day, as you could see. And those around them, around him felt that joy too.
Right. Can we all be like that man who just finds things in everyday life that you can give? So actually, for our next discussion question, we would like you guys to talk about that. So what are some simple ways you think you can give in your everyday life? So I believe this is a kind of a simple question. So let's take about 3 minutes to share around your table, and we'll come back. So I know you guys are still talking, but actually we do have a second discussion question that you guys can also talk about. And so James kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's regarding giving without expectations. So if you guys are done with the first one, you guys can also go on to the next one, which is what challenges do you face in the practice of giving without expectations, and how can you overcome that to unleash the power of giving? So let's take another few minutes and we'll take some sharings. Okay, let's take the last minute to wrap up your discussions and we'll take some sharing. All right, so I do apologize for kind of rushing, but we do have to move on with our program. So if I could ask for someone to share, any volunteers? Oh, I see a hand back there.
Okay.
Okay. So we have someone to share
Okay.
here.
Hi.
Please stand up.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Steph. I'm from DC. So our group was discussing, what was the first question again?
What are simple ways that you can? Oop.
Oh, okay. So a few simple ways that we said was, one of them is smiling, of course. Our group leader is from New York. She was mentioning how in New York, the atmosphere of a metropolitan area, everyone's rushing everywhere, everyone's trying to get places, it's very competitive, the environment is just like that. But there's one day that she's thinking about our lovely Tzu Chi, which brought a smile to her face, and she was walking down the street and she noticed a stranger who reciprocated that smile. And although at first very alarming, she thought about it, and it had a very positive impact on her, and it's something that she tries to do more of now, right? And for me, the second and third discussion question, the challenges in giving without expectations, I started talking about how, at least in my student atmosphere, a lot of the times it can be very competitive, right? Because a lot of people are trying to succeed, and a lot of people are trying to get to the next level, right? And so in giving without expectations, there might sometimes be the idea that if I give to you, you're gonna advance, well, I'm gonna be stagnant, right? But to overcome that, I think it's important to remember why we give, and the purpose of giving, and being able to be a positive support system and a positive aspect to someone else's life, and that doesn't hinder your growth in any way, but you can mutually benefit from one another. Thank you.
Wow, that's wonderful. All right, sorry, I would definitely love to take more sharings, but unfortunately we're a little bit tight on the time. So thank you all for the wonderful discussions, and for the next part, we would actually like to take you guys to explore a little bit about this topic of giving and charity, kind of what Brother James talked about earlier. But now we have two more sisters coming up here to share with us on the Happy Campus project from Northern California. So first of all, we have Sister Rebecca Yang, and later on we'll have Sister Michelle Wong come on stage. So Sister Rebecca Yang, please welcome her.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. Good morning. I'm Rebecca Yang from San Jose, California, Northwest region. This morning, I'd like to share with you the Happy Campus program in the Bay Area. The Happy Campus program started in 2005 in San Francisco, and then it moved to the South Bay, which is the San Jose, the well-known Silicon Valley, in 2009. In the city of East Palo Alto. Let me just advance the slide a little bit. Okay. Silicon Valley is home to many high-tech companies such as Facebook, Google, Apple, and it's also known for its high cost of living and expensive real estate. The slide just went away. Here we go. Sorry. Okay. All right. So, however, next to this rich and fame, there is a city called the East Palo Alto. East Palo Alto is where the gardener, the cleaning lady, and the construction worker, and many of the blue-collar people live. Many of them, because of the high expense of living, multiple families live in one house. Bellhaven is one of the schools that's in the city of East Palo Alto School District. 95% of the students receive free lunch. Free lunch means that the family income is at or below the federal defined poverty level. Due to the parents' working hour and also living condition and cultural differences, Bellhaven has very high absentee rate. It ranked last out of the 8 schools when we started in 2014. Tzu Chi started the Happy Campus program in Bellhaven in 2014, focusing on their attendance. Attendance is key to student learning and raising the test score. At the request of the school principal, Tzu Chi started the the Tiger Paw Store program to boost the attendance. Tiger is the school mascot, and we opened the Tiger Paw Store to encourage the attendance. Every week, students receive 25 points for perfect attendance for that week. And then they can come to the Tiger Paw Store to collect prizes. These kids that you're seeing here, it took them a whole month, 4 weeks of perfect attendance to trade in for these lovely toys, and they're really happy about it. To further boost the attendance rate, we, the Tzu Chi group, sponsor a perfect attendance award ceremony 2 to 3 times a year. And it's a big production for us. Students present flowers to the parents that we prepare during the ceremony. And we ask them to raise the flower facing their parents, bow 90 degrees, present to their parents. And at the same time, they thank their parents for bringing them to school on time every day. The first time we did this, the parents were pleasantly surprised with a warm, heartwarming gesture. They didn't think that they would be thanked that way. One of the parents, who happened to be the school janitor, came to me afterwards and said to me, "This is the best respect I ever got in my whole life," when the son presented the flower to him. And he said, "It's from my son." And you can see there are many happy parents and students who really cherish that day. After the ceremony, the school principal and the vice principal also come and told us. They said, "We never thought about thanking the parents before. You guys did the right thing." I drove home that evening with a big smile in my heart because I feel I was so proud to be in Tzu Chi family, to have the opportunity to serve this community and also share the gratitude, respect, and love with this group of people who live in a community who work so hard, but their work are usually taken for granted and not recognized. Bellhaven School this year, their attendance ranked number 3 in the school district. Collectively together, there are about 15 of us who participate in this program. Every year, we put in about 2,500 hours annually to this school. We put in our time, our energy, and our love. And along the way, we make very good affinity connections with the school staff, teachers, parents, and community partners. We are building a Bodhisattva family in this community. Thank you. Now I'm going to hand over the mic to Michelle, Sister Michelle, who's going to explain the Happy Community Program in San Francisco.
Hello. Thank you, Sister Rebecca. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle. I'm coming from Northern California, San Jose office. And right now I want to talk about is the San Francisco Happy Communities. Okay. Happy Community actually is is a continuous program of a Happy Campus. Through Happy Campus, we saw so many people, students need to help. We go there to help, go to the family to help, then you know more and more about the communities. So that's how we get into the communities. And before, this is Hunter's Point. It's in San Francisco. A lot of people went to San Francisco, and I think you don't know about this place. Even people in San Francisco, this is the area, is the coolest place. You look at the picture, this is the community. You look at, there's a lot of police car. The window is broken, or the window is sealed by the car wood board. Do you think of this place safe? This is a very, very dangerous place. The place, there's a higher crime rate, unemployment rate, drug, gangster, prostitution. So, but you know the place is actually most people, they don't have enough food. They don't have furnitures. So when we find out, we decided, what are we going to do? Do you think that's a place Tzu Chi should go to help? I think this is a place we keep searching and searching. After we found that, so what are we going to do? We have a meeting and we say, oh, we should go to visit, and we should go to visit frequently. So we say we should go there every weekend. But you know what? We have different voices in our volunteer because people scared. They are asking, should we have to risk our life to help people? So we don't know what to do, so we go back to Hualien to ask masters. And masters say, why do you have to think it this way? Because, you know, you wear the uniform. The uniform is the best bulletproof vest. You wear this, the people know you are coming, you are helping them. You should not worry about that. So with master's blessing and encouragement, we help the community since 2019 now. It's almost 10 years. And you know, helping people is not that easy, especially we are different colors. Those communities almost is the African American communities. So we are different color, we are different cultures. We are outsider, we're stranger. You want to help them, they probably will not accept you. So you take us a lot of time, long time, step by step, little by little. But you know what is the mostly we can give them? It's the love. It's the unconditional love without anything for return, any expectation. So gradually they accept us. And the soul is that you have the persistence. And you know what their problem is they are less confidence. They are living in the isolated environment. They don't know the outside world. And the people coming in is mostly, you know, is given open promise. They say, we are going to help you. Probably just taking a few pictures, they never show up. So they doesn't trust the outsider. So you take us many, actually almost, right now it's already 10 years. They're not accepting us. So since they don't trust, the wall between us was teared down. 2 minutes? Okay. And so what they need is not only those, this is the family we are helping, and this is, you know, the house is not livable places. So we are giving them the materials, food, furniture. You know, kids over there, they have a 3 meal free from school, but usually they don't have nothing to eat. During weekend or holidays, we bring foods over, and the kids, we give them the materials, but this is not the ultimate goal. We want to help them to have a better life. So, but you need to build up their confidence. They need role models. You know, parents talk to us, dad talk to us, he's in tears. So they want to be a good parents, but they don't know how. So we need to give them guidance. So did you hear some people like this, they don't know how? Are you going to turn away from them? So that's the reason we cannot leave them. We are be there. This is Daniel King, you know, he's a good student, but in the environment, you don't have futures. So we actually helped him to admit to a boarding school. We had to convince mom to help him, you know, hold his hand step by step every day to overcome all the troubles. So without persistence, without fear, we cannot have fear because this is a dangerous place, but we want to help people, we have to go into there. And to talk about this is the local communities, because you go in there, help their own people watching us, and they say, one day they come to us, say, what can we help with our own people? We say, can you come over? We invite them to join us, to join Tzu Chi's family, to help their own people. Because if you have less people, we probably can help 3, 5 families. But you know, in the community, they have 200 families, mostly situation like this. We need more and more people to join us. So this is the picture taken during the new volunteer orientation, just like you are right now. Okay, so we have a local volunteers, local Bodhisattva families. And I want to talk about this current right now. It's the Hunter's Point you first saw in the first picture. It's very poor, very dangerous, it's broken everywhere. But right now they have a new developed program going on in San Francisco. That's the biggest one since the Golden Gate Bridge was built. They tear down the whole place, get a new building, and there's hundreds and hundreds of acres of retail center. Next time you go to San Francisco, you will definitely go to that place. It's the new one, the shopping area. So the Hunters Point residents going to move into their areas because over 10 years contribution, San Francisco cities recognize Tzu Chi. It's actually, we are really doing something to stabilize the communities. So they give us an office over there in their community center. That is even closer, easier to help those residents over there. And they invite us as one of the 4 anchor organizations to lead the guidance of the communities and to provide the services over there. So, and to tell you a more exciting story is, after 10 years givings, you know, the local people, the community member, they want to know more about Tzu Chi. So we invite them to go to Hualien in May. The group of 5 community members, my 5 students, I believe the trip will make their connection with Tzu Chi even deeper and even closer with Tzu Chi and the Master Zhen Yan. And those people will be the strong Bodhisattva seeds. And the seeds with our nurturers, years nurturers, there will be a Bodhisattva trees in the future. Will be not only 1 tree, 2 trees. We are going to spread more seeds in this area. So we are spending, where we have trees, 10 trees, 50 trees, 100, 200 trees. At that time, you will have a Bodhisattva forest in the community. When you have Bodhisattva forest in the community, you think that the community will be like before you saw in the picture? It will not. It will be a very happy place people want to live in. At the end, I want to talk about is, we are starting in the Happy Campus. During Happy Campus, it help 1 family, 2 family. You have more happy families. Happy family, it turns out happy communities. In the happy community is, more and more happy community is a society will be peaceful, calm, it's a society is a Tzu Chi want to be. So it is a dream. We start in the small, but we end big in the future. It is a dream, it is achievable, and it's proof. So I invite all of you here, and more people in the future to Tzu Chi, to build an even bigger dream. Thank you, everyone. That's my story.
Hi, can we please give a big round of applause to all the speakers and presenters again? So I thought that class was really, really transformative. I enjoyed hearing the stories. I mean, I've never heard those stories before. And I think those stories really capture kind of the power of giving and how it always starts with an act of service. It starts with the willingness and the ability to give. And that starts a connection. And these connections build up and add up to creating this big Bodhisattva family that we want to see, that we've seen in San Francisco, that we've seen in San Jose, and that we see not only around the US, but all around the world. So with that, I guess that class comes to a conclusion. We are now going to move to a tea break time. I have just one announcement to make before that. I'm told that we are on social media. So if you want, during the tea break time, to take some pictures, to tweet something, to post something on Facebook, please remember to use the hashtag Tzu Chi Retreat in your posts so that we can stay connected as to your thoughts, as to what you think of retreat. With that, I think the group leads know how to exit for the tea break. So we can go right into that. Thank you.
So everyone, please gather your belongings and okay, please stand. I mean, you don't need to. Okay. You don't need to bring your bags with you, but at least leave the table organized. Make sure you bring your cups.
Hi, good morning. Let's get ready to exit to the breakout room in the back of this lecture hall. Yeah, okay, please proceed. Just a quick reminder, so the break time will be finishing 10 minutes by 10, so just be aware of it. Thank you.
Sorry, can you get some light down here, please? Thank you.
In the back, please. Okay, thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Okay, so as we're waiting for the rest of the groups to come back, I believe your group leaders handed out a little survey to fill out for our giving class, and you can use this time now to give us some feedback on our workshops. And it's really brief. Don't feel too pressured to fill something out if you can't think of anything to say. Just write down what was most memorable for you about the class, and if there's anything that we can do to improve them in the future. So we would really appreciate your thoughts on that. Thank you very much. And so we will have these little surveys for all 4 of our workshops.
Okay, so I'll walk out. How was the food? I had the food was delicious. It was great. Oh, those sound like good words. Loving speech. Wow. That's good. Do these mics go all the way out there? You want to make an announcement if you're still outside? Hi, for those of you who are still outside, we're going to start the class in a few moments, so please come back in to join us. Thank you.
Tea breaks.
Oh my God, the words that you're using, they seem so significant.
Well,
it's like we specifically chose this transition for a reason.
So without further ado, let's welcome our team members for Loving Speech.
All right.
Brother Eric.
Sorry, I'm just waiting on my co-facilitator here. If y'all would just be patient for a little bit. Hope she comes soon.
Sorry, Eric, I'm so late. Food at tea break was just too good, and I lost track of time, and I just can't.
Farah, what kind of excuses are those? How could you be so irresponsible? I should have known you'd be late.
Literally, Eric, you are the last person to be telling this to me right now. You have been late to every single one of our planning meetings, and I never said anything because I wanted to be nice. What is your problem?
Farah, I'm not the one that's actually late to the class. I think that's a lot more important than actual planning meetings. If you have such a big problem with that, why didn't you tell me earlier? Forget it. Let's just start.
Whatever. Welcome to the class about power of loving speech. My name is Farah.
My name is Eric.
And we are here to talk about and explore ways that we can create long-lasting and sustaining relationships using speech. this too loud? No, are we good? Cool.
Sorry.
No worries. So, who's been through an experience like that before, where you kind of get really heated in the moment and someone responds to you in anger and you respond back in anger because you feel like that's just so natural to do? Like, I definitely have done that, you know? And you can all see that it just happens so naturally when you're kind of feeling attacked, you want to attack back because you're on the defense. But when you kind of respond with these snappy and emotional sentiments, you can lose your credibility and trustworthiness, and give me a second. And you can possibly ruin your relationships with the people around you. So what if we told you there's a way to prevent that from happening and transform these situations?
So out of the 4 all-embracing virtues, giving, loving speech, beneficial conduct, and working together, that is exactly why loving speech is such a critical component. It's also one of the trickier ones because it really requires all of yourself and your mindset and the environment around you. It's really difficult to put loving speech into action. But that's what we're going to explore today, and how the power of loving speech can cultivate meaningful relationships in our lives.
So before we talk about the power of loving speech, let's go over what loving speech actually is. Here's some thoughts. So, loving speech are words that are kind. These are words that show that you're caring and that you are aware of the other person's being and that you sincerely want to know how they're doing. These are words that are benefits the other person. So these are words that you see that will actually move the conversation forward, provide space for people to grow. Loving speech are words that comfort, encourage, and teach. They are also words that are respectful, because when you are respectful, you are allowing the other person to know that you honor their position as well as the relationship that you two hold. And loving speech is a form of giving. Sometimes you can say the right words that will provide the sentiment that this person needs to kind of carry on and grow, and that is a gift within itself. We must actively choose to use loving speech because this is a choice that we can have. And that way, we can provide these gifts in every interaction that we hold.
So, now that we've covered what is loving speech, why don't we cover what isn't loving speech? Loving speech is not flattery. Flattery may sound like a good thing sometimes. It almost sounds like a compliment. You're looking at, like, your shoes look so nice today. You look so nice today. But when it's a comment made with ill intent, or it's not in the best interest of the person receiving it, it's not loving speech. Lies. Lies are words that mislead, that misinform, intentionally deceive, and are divisive. Gossip. When you and a friend are chatting it up, talking about someone else who's not in the room right now, it's definitely not fair to that person who's being talked about. It's not fair for them. They don't have any chance to stand up for themselves. Gossip is not loving speech. Last but not least, harsh words. Harsh words is a broad category. It's one of the most common forms of non-loving speech. It covers cruel words, foul words, unkind words. So cursing, insulting someone. So flattery, lies, gossip, harsh words. If you can't remember that, just think flickawa.
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 Now that we've gone over what is and isn't loving speech, now we can talk about the power of loving speech. So it's important to remember that speech has power. And this is because words that are used to us have impact on us. They affect us. I bet we can all think of a time where someone just said that one thing that ticked us off, or that one thing that made our day, right? Sometimes it's just so easy to just say that one thing. But sometimes you have the ability to also give it back. So loving speech is a two-way street. You can give loving speech, but you can also perceive loving speech. So you can decide for yourself whether or not you perceive their words as loving speech and how you react to that. So we must keep that in mind, that like when we are listening and when we are giving speech, that we are mindful that we are perceiving and giving loving speech both ways.
In conversations and in speech, we say things, we hear things, we have all these reactions. But when talking about reactions, you ever hear that saying that reactions make up 90% of our whole life?
Yes.
It's really important, when talking about reactions, it's really, really important to talk about habitual tendencies. Habitual tendencies are pretty much what they sound like. They're habits and tendencies. So whenever something pops up, some situation happens in our lives, we typically tend to react the same way. And over time, the situation pops up again and again, we react the same way. Over time, this becomes a tendency, a really hard to break tendency. For example, this happens to me all the time. When I go out the door, my mom is like, please, you gotta put your jacket, and it's like 7 degrees outside. And whenever I hear that, I'm in a rush, I get annoyed. That's a habitual tendency of mine. When Farah came running onto stage late, it was hard to hide my anger because this is something we've been planning for months, and she failed to be on time for the most important part of it. So I got angry. That was my habitual tendency. But it's important to note that habitual tendencies are not just negative things. They can actually be cultivated towards more positive. For example, you can cultivate a habitual tendency of loving speech through practice and persistence. So on that note, how about we take some time to practice some loving speech?
Do you want to practice? Yes! Awesome. So for this activity, we want all of us to take some moment to reflect. Let's reflect on something that someone said to hurt you. So think of that time where you kind of said that one thing that you regret because you just reacted out of anger or annoyance. What was that one thing that that person said to you? Now that, if you've thought of one, try to think of 2 more. So for this activity, we're going to be asking you to write on those index cards. There's colored index cards on each of your desks or tables. And we want you to write all 3 statements down on them. But please keep in mind that these will be read out loud. So feel free to share however comfortable you are sharing. But try to write 3 statements of hurtful statements that someone has said to you. So these are statements, again, that you've kind of heard someone say to you, and you've responded back with anger or with lies or with whatever you needed to cope that wasn't loving speech. So we'll just take some time. All right, let's start wrapping it up.
How's everyone doing? About 30 more seconds to a minute. Take your time.
Choose your words wisely.
Anyone still need more time?
Okay, yeah, no worries.
No worries. It could be hard to remember hurtful things.
It could be hurtful to remember hurtful things.
Yes. Okay. If I can get everyone's attention back up to the stage, that'd be awesome. Okay, now it's time to get up and find a partner. Ideally, your partner is within your group, but if your group has an odd number, try to see if you can grab someone for the next table. Okay? Once you find your partner, go ahead and exchange your cards. Ready, set, go.
Go. So partner in pairs.
Yeah, you'll need to be standing for this. Because then they need to talk to each other. Oh, like they need their own space, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you want to say that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they need to stand. Try to sit next to your partner because you will be talking to each other, and just make sure that you can hear them clearly and that you won't be talking over anybody else.
Yeah. Try to sit a little bit farther away from other pairs, because it's really important to hear each other's conversation. I mean, your partner's conversation, not other teams.
You don't have to discuss the sentiments now. They're just exchange cards.
Yeah.
Does anyone not have a partner still? Did we all find a partner? Cool.
Ooh. Okay. If I could get your attention back up front.
Just click the next one. So for this activity, now that you've exchanged cards with your partner, you will be reading the other partner's statement back at them. And for this activity, in the spirit of the activity, you're going to be reading the statement in a mean tone, okay? No hard feelings, just read it in a mean tone. After the statement is read to you, your goal is to respond to that statement and try to think of the perfect comeback. But with a twist, it should be using loving speech. How can you transform the situation? How can you disarm the situation and make the other person understand that how you are feeling and move the conversation along? So the goal is to respond using loving speech. But how do you do that? Well, we have some methods for you. So here are just some methods. If you have your own, feel free to use them. And we encourage you to use a different method for each statement. So one method is acknowledge. We want you, in your response, to acknowledge that you understand what was being said. This could be rephrasing what the other person said to you, and then that way, if there is any miscommunication, you can know from the beginning. Another method is to understand. Before your response, try to think about where this other person is coming from, where are their experiences, what led them to make this statement, and what kind of answer are they really looking for? What kind of response do they really need to hear right now? One other method is transform. In your response, we want you to transform the situation. Maybe respond back with a positive feedback or with a compliment, something to change the mentality of the situation. something to transform the situation. And remember to do so with sincerity, because flattery is not loving speech. So these are just some methods. If you have your own, feel free to use them. But we do encourage you to use a different method and try different ways to respond. The way that this activity is going to work is that one statement is said, one response is said, and then you switch. So we're going to actually demonstrate for you real quick. So for my partners, Eric, nice to meet you, Eric. What an honor. Sorry, I was late. And the statement that I've written down on my card is, "You are too loud and obnoxious." So, haha, here's some chuckles. So I would have written this on a card, and I would have given it to Eric. And so he's going to read it to me using a mean tone.
So in a random order, I'm going to read the statements on this card. Farah, you are too loud and obnoxious.
So after hearing that statement, I'm going to respond back using one method that I know of loving speech. The method that I want to use today is acknowledge. Thank you, Eric, for letting me know that the volume that I'm speaking at is a little too loud for the environment that it calls for. I'll be more mindful next time, so thanks.
Yeah.
So, does everyone understand? So after that,
So after that exchange, it will be Farah's turn to read a card on my section. So, and you're going to do that, go back and forth for each statement until all 6 statements have been completed. Make sure to try to use a different method for each statement. You can, we'll put up the methods
we'll
on here.
leave these up, so if you want to take a look. And remember, try to randomize it so they're kind of a little surprised.
So these are just for reference. These are just examples. Feel free to use your own types of methods. It's hard to, we all have a very different style of loving speech and conversation. So just use these for inspiration. And
All right, any questions so far? Awesome, so let's begin. Feel free to start. All right, start wrapping up if you haven't said your last statement yet. All right, everyone, 30 seconds left. Start wrapping up. All right, everybody, please turn your attention back to us. Hi.
Hi.
Hello. All right, everybody. I'm glad to hear that we have some chatty people, but we do have discussion questions, so we can save these discussions for a little bit. Okay, everybody.
If we could have everyone face back forward. Thank you. All right. And also, can we have everyone return to their original seats?
Yeah, return to your groups, please. You don't need to be sitting next to your partner anymore.
Okay. So, how was that? It might have been felt like a very, very strange and unfamiliar activity. Usually, a lot of us don't like to reach into our past and our minds and draw out what were those moments that we felt really significantly hurt by a conversation we had with someone else and really negative interactions. We try to not remember them, right? And so we kind of just like ask you to bring it up from the depths of your minds and just replay it like it's happening right now. I feel like your experiences would be quite interesting to hear about. So we have prepared some discussion questions for you all to discuss with your groups. Number one, which method came the most easiest for you? What other methods can you think of to practice loving speech in difficult situations? And two, we're going to ask you to pick one of the statements and think back to when it actually happened. What happened, and what do you think would have happened if you tried to put these principles into action? What would have been different then and maybe even now? Number three, was it difficult to use loving speech? Why or why not? And do you think you could use loving speech in everyday situations? Why or why not? So we'll start with the first set of two, and once we're a few minutes in, we'll switch to the second set. Okay?
Discuss within your small groups. We'd love to hear your experiences.
So we're going to move on to the next question. The last question.
All right, everybody, let's start wrapping up our conversations. And if you've had a really good discussion in your group, we're looking for 2 groups willing to share. So when we ask for it, raise your hands, and we would love to hear some sharings. So start wrapping up.
Yay, sharing.
Because we've heard some really great conversations, and I think it would be beneficial for all of us to hear them. All right, everybody. Okay, so we are looking for 2 groups willing to share. Anyone raise your hand? Oh, this one came up really fast.
Clap, 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 clap.
So if you can just introduce yourself if you want.
I'm Dennis from Atlanta. So I was talking about the second method, understanding, and I give a real-world example of sometimes we don't know what people are going through in their lives. They might have an emotional outbreak, a mental breakdown, and you might be the receiving end of that negative energy. So my example was, let's say there's a police officer, right? And he was just on the scene of a car accident where the entire family got killed. That's a really traumatic event. But then he got his second call. He's going to maybe helping a mother and the mother was really upset, yelling at him, but she had no idea what he just experienced. So a lot of times if you give somebody a benefit of the doubt and just some compassion and that little space, maybe it's not true that he went through the experience, but just that little space, you are giving yourself and that person the opportunity to maybe remedy the situation or make the whole experience better.
Thank you so much for sharing, Dennis. I can personally relate to that. When most negative situations we have with the people around us, it's most often because that person is going through something really hard themselves. My family can be very, very naggy and very sharp with me, but when I get to, and I get really angry when they yell at me, but when they honestly, when they're more real, they're talking about their feelings, I realize they're going through some really tough times themselves, and it's hard for them to control, and they just let it out. But we can't let ourselves be taken down by that too, because we need to understand that as well. Can we get another person to share?
Anybody else want to share? We're going to look for someone from a different table first, if that's okay. Thanks. Come on, y'all. I know you had good conversations. Yes. Thank you.
So we were talking at our table about how loving speech can be obvious in the way that we saw it here of going out of your way to just be mean. But I think as adults, it's much more subtle. You actually have to be far more self-critical into how others might view what you're saying. It might not even be the person that you're talking to that's the receiving end of your negative speech, but they're watching you in what you're saying, and they might translate that to others. And so where I found room for real self-improvement was thinking of how I behave at work as a leader of an organization, to say where I think I might be helping the organization or trying to help that person, how you do that and what you say to them can be a motivator or a demotivator. And I think the other thing we talked about was sometimes maybe with the best tool is to not say anything, to just take a second and not feed that cycle of negativity. I know in my personal relationship with my wife, that would be a very important tool for me to start to use. So this was more of a challenge to think like that, but I think it's actually more prevalent for me personally as a self-improvement opportunity.
Thank you so much. I think there is 1,000,002 ways to talk about loving speech. After all, we spend most of our day either listening to speech or talking. So, and that's every single time we open our mouth, that's an opportunity to learn about, to practice loving speech. So, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for having good discussions. I know Eric and I walked around and I definitely heard some really awesome discussions. So we're gonna go into some final thoughts before our last portion. So like we've heard through the sharings, it's really tough to kind of practice loving speech, but it can be practiced. And if you keep practicing, it is a habit that you can grow, just like any other habitual tendencies that we've had. And sometimes some methods do come more naturally. So like understanding might come more naturally, acknowledging might come more naturally, but transform might be harder. Not being, remembering that you need to take a moment and not responding could be harder. But just know that these all can be practiced, no matter how hard. And just know that the goal is to be comfortable so you don't really have to think twice anymore. So whatever situation you're in, you do have the wisdom to respond with loving speech. That is our goal.
You acquire all these methods to use. Every situation is very different. Our next takeaway is that loving speech has the profound ability to change others. When you open your mouth, when you use loving speech, that is an opportunity for others to learn, to listen to you, and to grow. Someone could say something that's completely hurtful to you, or you heard about someone doing something, or someone just made a gesture or some sort of subtle movement, indication that you took personally and that hurt you. But we can't let ourselves be be affected by that. And when they see, and if you use loving speech and they see that, they'll take a pause and really take a chance to reflect on themselves. And on the same notes, loving speech also has the power to change ourselves. When we use and practice loving speech more and more, that subtly changes us and gradually changes us to be more loving and sincere ourselves. Wouldn't it be great if we could all be a little bit more loving and a little bit more sincere? I feel like a lot of our societal problems would gradually become less if we are all a little bit more loving.
And I think through this interaction and this activity that we really can see that loving speech is a decision that we can make. It might be a really hard decision, it might be really tough to make, but in the end, it is still a choice. So we want to encourage you all to be empowered to actively choose loving speech, no matter how hard, because we want to cultivate good relationships. We want to create long-lasting and share great love. But how can we share that if our speech is not loving, if our actions are not loving, if our thoughts are not loving? And so we want to be able to let you know that loving speech is a decision. And I think that's like the first step, knowing that you have the choice to use loving speech in every interaction that you encounter.
So at this moment, we'd like to invite to the stage Sisters Peggy Joe and Sister Martina Lowe. They, representing the education mission, both of them have a lot of experience working with volunteers of all ages, from anywhere from preschool, high school, collegiate, and adult volunteers. And at each stage of life, it is important to use the practices of loving speech, but it is especially critical at the younger stages of life, when people are more impressionable. They learn things and are very impressionable. To learn about the practices of loving speech, and I'd like to invite them to the stage to share about their stories of loving speech.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Eric and Farah, for the introductions. I'm Martina. And
I'm Peggy.
And we're from San Diego. Yeah. So I feel like we're both learning just as much as everyone in this room about loving speech, because it's not something that we talk about. We get a chance to talk more in depth about like this, but everyone loves to hear loving speech. And when I was talking to Sister Peggy about we all have different perceptions of loving speech, right? And it's very impressionable when we're young. And I remember when I was little, I liked Tzu aphorisms a lot. I like to collect them and sort of try and apply them to my life. And when I was little, in middle school, my family lived in a little house, and we rented a house. So my mom she felt bad that she couldn't host birthday parties for me and my brother because it was too small to invite people over. And I just said one of the aphorisms. I said, "Oh, it's better to have a big heart than an open house, or an open heart than a big house." And she reminded me of that recently, and I said, "Oh, I said that? I don't remember saying that." But yeah, it just shows that it was just something I said in a passing that really helped comfort her and make her feel relieved about that situation. And just also, yeah, so when I was talking to Sister Peggy about our perceptions, I found that loving speech for me is especially encouraging during times when I'm down. And just to illustrate an example, sometimes when we go to Tzu Chi education events, we are invited to share about our experiences. And there was one time recently I was invited to share about some of my illustrations I did inspired from Master's teachings. So for example, aphorisms and some children's music videos that I've done. And it's a 45-minute presentation, and it wasn't until the time I sat down to put together the PowerPoint that I started to panic. I realized, oh no, I don't think this is going to be any good, and I started to psych myself out and start to be really doubtful, because to be honest, I'm actually, I doubt myself a lot, and so loving speech, at that time I was visiting my mom, so I actually was really worried that this presentation was not going to be any good, and I wasn't going to be able to do it, and I got to the point where I told my mom, oh, I think I want to give up and tell them I don't want to do this presentation anymore, and my mom just told me, you know, people won't ask you to share this experience if they didn't already think that it's good. And when she said that, I'm really glad she said that at that moment, because what I needed was not a compliment. What I needed was a new perspective. And if she had said something in the passing like, oh no, it's okay, it's good, you're gonna be okay, I don't think it would have helped as much, because I know that, I already know that not everybody will find my work good, but what she said was actually truthful in a way, and helped me think about a different way and think, oh yeah, that's true. Why would they ask me if they didn't think it was good? So as long as they think it's good, then I'm okay with it. So it was very helpful for her to say that to me, and I realized that it was just that change in mindset to help me get out of that positivity, out of that negative cycle, to bring me into a more positive area. So she put herself in my shoes was a big factor, and like we said, it's different for everybody. So Sister Peggy has another story to share.
Okay, so since Eric just mentioned the education, so this is not on my plan, but San Diego, we have the kids, we have Tzu Chi Academy. We actually have kids from kindergarten to 6th grade. So we actually have some kids have some learning disability to join us. But every time they come, they feel so comfortable, because everybody in the service center, every time we see them, the loving that come from everybody actually make them feel safe, make them feel comfortable, and then they love to come. And every time when the school ends at 12 o'clock and they don't want to leave, they just want to keep staying there. Okay, so loving speech is the environment actually brings a good out of people. So I think not only we should create that environment for ourselves. Whenever we go, we can create the same thing. At the first, maybe not so easy, but gradually it will make a difference. And the final story I want to share is a train. Okay. This is something every time I thought about that, I feel happy, because I did make a difference by what I did. So this is in 2009, there's a train crash in California, and when I went to the family reunification center, saw this couple from Taiwan, and they don't speak too much English, so their daughter was on the train. Then they couldn't find her daughter. It was 11 o'clock at night already. So and they're Christian. So because I used to go to church, and a lot of people know I love to sing, so I still remember the song I sing, basically saying, the God didn't promise you have a safe road and that you will smell the flower along the way, but they will give you the strength to overcome whatever difficulty. So I think that's the right time for me. I think it's the right time to sing to that family. And so I did. And ended up, their daughter passed away, but that song keeps staying with them. And to this day, we still contact each other. And remember, not past 2 years, but before that, every year on Thanksgiving Day, the father will give me a text message or give me a phone call. So I think what I did, I make a difference in their life. And also, I want to say this because the song I learned actually from my middle school. That's 40 years ago. But so everything happens in our life, we are actually accumulating what we can do what we can relate to each different person. So I keep reminding myself, we have to take every opportunity to learn. Like 近似 aphorism is just a great way to accumulate our vocabulary. That so when the situation is needed, and you can just say the right thing at the right time, and you can actually help people by this loving speech. That's my sharing. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Sisters Martina and Peggy Jo for their really lovely experiences and sharing. Now that we've learned a little bit about the methods of loving speech and hearing their stories, maybe I think we can think about that scenario we did at the beginning of the class and see if we can come up with a more positive ending. Yeah? Yeah!
Oh my God, I am so late. I got a little distracted.
Farrah, I'm gonna cut you off there. Your excuses suck. How could you be so irresponsible? We're here waiting for you. The class has been waiting for you. This is the most important time of our classes here. What's going on? Why would you do that?
Literally? Wait. Eric has been waiting for me so patiently, and I was late to class. I only have been giving excuses. I didn't even apologize yet. I didn't even realize how much stress he might be under because we've been preparing for this class for so long, and I had the responsibility to be here on time. I need to let him know that I appreciate him. Eric, I'm so sorry I'm late, and thank you so much for waiting so patiently. I really lost track of time, and I wasn't being mindful, and I completely forgot, and I just really appreciate that you are patient with me and have supported me during this whole process. And I'm really excited that we get to present with you because we worked really hard on this, so thanks.
Hold up. I was not expecting that. Usually Farrah comes running in and gives me a whole laundry list of excuses why she was late and start yelling at each other, start going off on each other, but this is weird, but kind of nice. You know what, Farrah? I'm really sorry. I have to apologize for my actions. I've been really stressed out at work recently. This is my first week of work, and I'm learning a lot, and planning these classes has been a little stressful too, so when you came late, it just kind of just blew up on you, and I'm really sorry.
I'm sorry too.
You know,
So we hope with this workshop and this activity that you're given some methods to use loving speech as well as you feel empowered to use loving speech. And just know that we do have a room full of people that are here to support you, and it just seems like we are all in this together and must know that we're in this journey and we can use loving speech with each other and learn from each other. And so I hope that we can all feel empowered to actively use loving speech for the rest of conference as well as in our daily lives.
with that,
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sister Farrah, Sister Eric, for that wonderful class. We have a 5-minute quick stretch break, so you can take a break, relax. We have another survey for this class, like all the other classes, you can fill out. For those of you who need to use the restroom, please go quickly and be back. We will start our keynote at 11.
Thank you.